A very warm welcome to the 16th meeting of the Champion Evaluators Advanced Toastmasters Club. It's, a, it's wonderful to see the space continues to grow with commitment and a shared passion for learning. As we begin today, I'm reminded of the words of Brené Brown, a renowned American author who said, "Maybe stories are just data with a soul." And that beautifully connects with what we are about to experience this evening. Today's meeting is special as we dive into the art of storytelling, a skill that goes beyond speaking. It helps us connect, influence, and leave a lasting impact. We are truly privileged to have with us Kyle Murtagh, five-time District 71 International Speech Contest champion, who will be leading us through an educational session. His journey and mastery in storytelling are sure to inspire and enrich each one of us. So, before we begin, just a quick reminder, please keep your phones muted when not speaking, and if possible, keep your video on so we can stay connected and engaged. With that, let us look forward to an evening of learning, insight, and inspiration. To take us forward, may I invite our club president, distinguished Toastmaster Jyotika Shetty, a leader whose thoughtful guidance and steady presence continue to shape the quality and spirit of our club. Over to you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, distinguished Toastmaster Savita. Let's give Savita a huge round of applause for that bright little smile that she always has when she begins the meeting. A warm good evening, my dear friends, Toastmasters, and a special good evening to our special guest all the way from Scotland, Kyle Murtagh. I hope I'm pronouncing your family name right, Kyle. Now, I said all the way from Scotland. Now, Kyle doesn't have to travel all the way from Scotland, so I think it's easier for him just to switch on his video and say hi to all of us. Today, we are going to hear, today is our open house, and we're going to, like Savita said, we're going to hear about storytelling or learn about storytelling. Now, for a very long time, I have always heard others speak about their story. And I always felt that, when others speak about their story, it's so glamorized. We feel it's like glamour. We feel there's so much of substance in other stories. Oh my God, their stories are so great. When do I say those stories? But there came a time when I realized that if you want to tell your stories, at a certain point, you have to stop listening to other stories and start digging your own stories. And that's when I started creating my own story. Because everyone here has a story. It's just that we have to find a way to communicate it and inspire others and give that power to others. And that's what Kyle is here to do, to show us how storytelling can be used effectively. In fact, it is said that a powerful speaker is the one who can move the audience. But I see that when you move the audience, the magic pill there is to know how to tell your stories in an impactful manner. And that's why storytelling is that essential skill for a public speaker. And I'm so glad that Kyle is here. In fact, when we were deciding this open house and we were looking at the topics, Kyle gave us an option. Which one do you want? Table topics, evaluation, or storytelling? I took some time to think and I was wondering, what do we do? And it took me back to the story that I always had in mind. Stop listening to others and build your own stories. And that's when Daryl and I jumped into saying storytelling. And I'm so glad that we could put all of this together. So thank you to all our guests who are here today. We have about 26 in the room and more to join. Due to the paucity of time, I wouldn't be asking everyone to introduce yourself, but please know that this is a heartfelt welcome to all of you. Thank you for making it, and a warm welcome once again to all of you. And especially to our members as well. Today is the birthday of one of our members, but she's not here today, so we'll convey our wishes to her. We've already conveyed, but happy birthday, Molly. Very, very happy birthday to Molly. All right, now it's time to move on to the crux of the meeting because I know you do not want to listen to me now and you want to listen to the main style or the most decorated speaker of Scotland who's here today. I'll leave it to the Toastmaster of the evening to introduce him, but it is my pleasure and honor to include in this session all of you, but especially our Toastmaster of the evening who's going to take this meeting forward to this exciting session that is divided into 3 parts, but I'll let our Toastmaster of the evening talk about it. Please help me welcome my friend, my childhood friend actually, and the secretary of the club, Toastmaster Divya D'Souza. Over to you, Divya.
Thank you, Jyotika. Good evening, distinguished Toastmasters, respected leaders, and our very valued guests. It really is my absolute privilege today to serve as the Toastmaster of the day for this special meeting, because when is it all that we always have a speaker all the way from Scotland, right? And that can only happen at Champion Evaluators Advanced Toastmasters Club. Because tonight is not just another meeting, it's going to be an experience. Because today we explore something deeply human, something powerful, something unforgettable, stories. Stories that are not just words, they are just how we make sense of the world. They're how we connect, how we influence, and how we inspire. And in the world of communication, those who master storytelling don't just speak, they leave a mark. So today, our entire meeting is going to be in 3 parts. We will first begin with the education session, and it will then we move on to the prepared speech section. Now, every one of our meetings at Champion Evaluators Advanced Clubs has these very 3 important parts where we have a prepared speech, and after the prepared speech, the evaluators evaluate the prepared speaker. And after that, the evaluators are then evaluated. And that's what makes this club very special, because we help evaluators to become even more special, to develop all the techniques that are required to make champion evaluation, so that we're able to help these evaluators to not only build their skills, but also help the speakers to build them as well. So now I think I've clearly defined how this meeting is going to be like. Just like Jyotika said, you didn't all come here to listen to me. Today's education session, Stories That Speak, is perfectly aligned with our mission as Toastmasters to become better communicators and leaders, because facts inform, stories transform. And to guide us through this journey, we have someone truly exceptional. And it really is my privilege to introduce you all to him today, because he's not just a communicator, he's a champion of communication. Kyle Murtagh in Scotland is most exciting public speaker. He's an European champion and the founder of Confidence by Design. Through his work, he has helped thousands of individuals communicate with clarity, confidence, and impact. He is also the author of The 5 Pillars of Effective Public Speaking, a book that has empowered readers across the globe to unlock their speaking potential. Kyle believes that confidence is not something you're born with. It's something you can design. And today, he's here to help us design ours. So please join me in warmly welcome our education session speaker, Kyle Murtagh. So before we proceed, Kyle, the stage is yours, but I'd like to know how long would you like this, the timer to know how long would you like the session to be?
Well, we could go with the green light at 10 minutes, the yellow light at 15, and then the red at 20. That would be fantastic. And
Okay,
brilliant introduction, Divya. And I must say, well done on pronouncing the second name correctly, because so many people get it wrong. I was once introduced at a Toastmasters meeting as Kyle Mustache. So you've done a lot better than that. Well done. Well done. So let me ask everyone here, who here loves hearing stories? Give me a raise of hands. Yeah, all the hands are immediately up. And as we get into Toastmasters, we begin to realize that the storytelling is the key to opening up our audience's hearts, to connecting with them, to moving them in the direction we want them to go. And you've probably told stories already in your speeches. And all I want to do today is give you 3 tips, 3 suggestions that might make the stories even better that you tell going forward. And you can remember these 3 tips as the 3 C's of compelling storytelling. You've always got to have a nice catchy title, so there you go. Right, the first one is conflict. Conflict. Every good story has a strong sense of conflict. Could anybody tell me why conflict is so important? Feel free to raise your hand, and I'd love to hear from you. Why is conflict so important? Malia, go ahead. I see your hand up, panelist. Go for it.
To me,
Yes, you, Malia, yeah?
I'm Malini. Yes.
Malini,
And
apologies.
we do have one more Maria. That's why I was confused.
All right, Malini, go ahead.
It builds the plot. It takes the plot forward when you have the conflict. It takes the plot forward. Without a conflict, probably you can't go forward.
Well, it would be hard. It would be hard, but there's actually another reason that we must have conflict in a story. Anyone else want to take a guess? I see. All right, I'm going to try my best with the names. Anbunami, go for it. Apologies if I got that wrong. Just call me Kyle Mustache if I did.
No problem. It's Anbu Money. You can call me Anbu. That will be very.
Let me hear
yeah.
it, sir. What do you think?
And so conflict creates an attention with the audience, and they will also follow us that they need to resolve that conflict.
Well said, sir. Well said. Conflict is what creates the engagement, because the audience begins to wonder how the main character in the story overcomes the conflict. Or do they overcome the conflict? Maybe the conflict beats them. And if we don't have conflict in our story, it becomes very boring. And I think a great example of this is the movie. I'm going to talk about a lot of movies today. The movie 127 Hours. Has anyone seen this film, 127 Hours? I think Divya certainly has. To give you the context, it's about a man called Ryan, and he's hiking in America. And he's going along, he's listening to his music, he's having a great day, the sun is shining, and then he falls down a hole. And this is a very deep hole, about 10 meters deep. And as he falls down it, he clatters off both sides on the rock face. And as he does that, he actually dislodges a huge rock, a huge boulder that follows him all the way down to the bottom and lands on his arm. Now he's 10 meters down. He can't get away, and there's no one around. And that's the start of the movie. And that makes you want to watch more, because you wonder, is he going to get out of this hole? Is he going to survive? You have all of these questions, and that's what keeps you engaged and makes you want to watch the rest of the film. I won't tell you the ending in case you want to go watch, but the principle remains that when we are telling a story, we need to get to the conflict early. So if we're talking about Toastmasters, if that's our forum today, within the first minute, you need to get to the conflict of your story. Within the first 60 seconds, I would say. If it takes till minute 3 of your 7-minute speech, it's far too late. You need to get to the conflict early. That's what's going to engage people and set up your story very nicely. Now, the second C, which we can talk about today, is of course characters. Every story has some good characters in it. Characters which you can relate to, connect with, that engage you. And there are 3 types of characters that you want to try and include in your stories. And I'm going to talk about Star Wars now. I'm a big Star Wars fan. And if you're not a Star Wars fan, don't worry about it. You can still learn a lot from these men using lightsabers and stuff like that and wearing weird overalls. Now, there are 3 characters in Star Wars which we see a lot of and which you often see in other great stories as well, and other great movies. The first character is, of course, the mentor. And you've probably seen the mentor a lot in Toastmasters speeches, right? It's the person who gives the piece of advice to the speaker and then their whole world begins to turn around. And in Star Wars, who is the mentor? Can anyone tell me who the mentor is in Star Wars? You can type it into the chat if you like. You can put your hand up. Who is the mentor in the Star Wars? I'll give you a clue. He's green. He is green. Yoda. Yes, I'm seeing it coming in the chat there. Absolutely. Yoda is the man who gives Luke Skywalker the advice, the guidance, and so forth, so that he can ultimately become a Jedi Knight and fulfill his destiny. And you've got to ask yourself, in your story, who's the mentor? Who's the person that guides you in the right direction? Is it something that they say that helps? Or is it something that they do that helps? Because often we see it in Toastmasters, you know, your mum will give you some advice and that changes everything. Or your dad will say something and then everything's better. But it's often a lot more realistic that we see someone in our life do something. Like if you saw, for instance, your mum work hard every single day, no matter how she was feeling, no matter what she was going on in her life, she made sure that you and your brothers and sisters were dressed well, that you were clean, that you got to school on time. If you saw her do that every day, that probably left an impression on you. An impression that you must take care of people regardless of what's going on. Family comes first, or something like that. And that can often be a little bit more realistic than your mum telling you family comes first. But hey, it's your speech and you've got to decide. But a mentor is certainly a key figure. Now, a second character to consider is the villain. The villain, right? This is perhaps a person in a story who is, they could even represent the conflict in any way. They are the obstacle stopping you from where you want to go. Maybe if you're doing a story about work and there's a boss that you have who is constantly putting you down, who's constantly taking credit for what you've done, who's constantly overlooking you, that could be the villain in your story, the person that you've got to get around or make friends with to get that promotion that you've always wanted. And in the world of Star Wars, our villain, of course, is Darth Vader. Darth Vader is the man who Luke Skywalker is going up against. And again, if you think about it, Star Wars would be quite boring if there wasn't any Darth Vader, because he brings the conflict. So these characters, these villains are very good because we can relate to them. You know, we all have a boss we didn't like, or a member of the family who's perhaps a little bit difficult, you know, that we can talk about, and that's going to help us connect with the audience. Now, the third character that I'd like you to consider, and it's one that a lot of people forget, is the comic. The comic. And this is the character in a story who, you know, they're not going to give you advice necessarily. They might do, but they probably won't. And they're not going to be against you, but they're going to have a little bit of comic relief in the story. Because one of the key things of a compelling story is it makes you laugh. It often makes you laugh, you know. You'll have deep moments in the story, serious moments, but you'll have those lighter moments as well where you laugh a little, and that can release tension. In Star Wars, it's those droids which are the kind of give you that comic relief. You know, the golden droid and R2-D2, all the beep, 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 the squeaking noises like that. That's the thing that makes you laugh in Star Wars. Now, for you, it could be something that your kid says that makes the audience laugh in your story. Or it could be something that your partner, your husband, or your wife says. It could be some other relation. But it's always nice when there's some form of funny character in the story. And if you've got those three, if you've got the mentor, you've got the villain, and you've got a comic relief character, that can be very, very compelling in terms of your storytelling. Now, last but not least, the last C I want to talk about with you is the conclusion. This is the most important part of any story. When you get to that final 6-7 minutes in your Toastmaster speech, it's got to all tie together. The story has got to lead to the message. Because often what we see is people will tell a story, but it might have 5 different messages in it. And then that becomes confusing for the audience because they don't know what to take from the story. The story has got to lead to that key message, which is abundantly clear. And a great example of this is the movie A Wonderful Life. Has anyone seen that film, A Wonderful Life? It's a very old film from 1946. If you haven't, I'm going to tell you what happens because you've had about 80 years to watch it. Okay, what happens is this. There's a character in it called George Bailey. And George Bailey has a beautiful family. He has a good job. He has a very supportive community. But he takes all of it for granted. He doesn't like his job. He thinks his family are a disappointment. He hates his community. He'd like to move somewhere else to a bigger city to make a new life. And he's so ungrateful for his situation that one night, when looking up to the stars, he screams, "I wish I had never been born." And it just so happens that an angel that night was listening and grants his wish and makes it so that he was never born. And then from heaven or from the clouds or whatever you want to call it, he sees how his family have to struggle without him. He sees how all the people that he employed at his work now are unemployed and are in poverty. He sees how his community is not the same without his presence being there. And he also feels regret, remorse, because he misses his family. He misses his job. He wishes he could be part of that community. And so he begs, he pleads the angel to give him his life back. And he does. And that, of course, leads to the message. Gratitude for what you have. Be grateful for your family. Be grateful for your job. Be grateful for your community. That story leads to that message. And that's what you've got to do as well in the last 2 minutes of your Toastmaster speech. It's got to get to that message and it's got to be abundantly clear. So if you can do those 3 things, if you can start by getting to the conflict quickly, ideally within the first 60 seconds, and then if you can introduce some great characters in your story, characters that will make the audience laugh, that will make the audience feel tense, that will give the audience advice, and then finally, if you can come to a compelling conclusion with a great message, you're going to tell a very, very powerful story. So what I'd love to do now is take any questions, if you have any. Any questions about storytelling, I'd be delighted to answer them. And then what we'll do is I'll deliver a speech. I'll tell you a story, which hopefully embodies those 3 things which I've told you about as an example. So does anyone have any questions about storytelling or speaking in general?
Okay.
Yeah.
Divya, continue.
Please proceed, Malini ma'am. I've got it in the chat. Please proceed.
No, my question is, you referred to a conflict that would engage the audience.
Yeah.
And at what point of the speech would the resolution for the conflict come? Would it be in the last part where you have the message, or would it come earlier than that? Where would that come?
Yeah, so again, we'll probably keep it in the Toastmasters world here. So from, as I say, in the first 60 seconds, try and establish the conflict. You want the conflict to be resolved between minute 4 and minute 5. Between minute 4 and minute 5. And then you want to have time for the message, minute 5 to minute 7. That's what I would recommend, in my opinion. Perfect. Divya, did you have a question as well?
I'm just going to read out some questions that have come to me.
Okay.
So someone has asked, how do you decide which story to tell?
Well, I think that's got to be a mix of 2 things. Number 1, perhaps most important, what story do you want to tell? What story is going to excite you, that interests you, that's going to challenge you? I think that's very important because you've ultimately got to be passionate about your story for the audience to care about it. And then secondly, consider what do the audience want to hear? You know, because there are certain stories that you tell to your friends, that you tell to your family, that you tell at work, but you don't tell in Toastmasters. You know, so you've got to make sure that it's something you're passionate about, but also something which the audience, in this case Toastmasters, wants to hear. And if you get that golden combination, that's the story you should tell.
Okay. There's another question that has also come on is, how do you bring emotion into your storytelling? What is the most effective way to do that?
Well, the most effective way is to tell a story which is emotional. So if you tell a story about this is why many people talk about their family, because when they speak about their children, when they speak about their partner, when they speak about their mum or their dad, there's emotion in that. And that's the easiest way. Choose a topic which is going to be emotional for you. And then the other thing which you can begin to look to do is ask yourself, what was I feeling in that moment of the story? So let's say I'm telling a story and it's about a car crash I had. A horrible situation, right? I've never had one. Hopefully I never will. But let's say I was telling a story about that and I was telling you about the aftermath of the crash. I would want to kind of transport myself back to the fear I was feeling in that moment, to the anxiety I had, to maybe the depression I felt afterwards when I realized that I would be in a hospital bed for a week or something. You want to almost transport yourself back to that traumatic moment so then you can bring some of those emotions onto the stage, so you can bring the audience into the story with you. Not like in an acting way, but from a real perspective. Does that make sense, what I've said there? Yeah? Okay.
So we have two more messages in the chat. I'm going to read them out for you.
Excellent.
How do we add humor along with the message when we tell a story, with which we tell a story?
So the humor kind of comes back to the characters, right? If you can have one of the characters in your story create the humor, that's going to make your job a lot easier. Because it's very difficult to be up here and just be funny, right? And tell jokes. But if a character is telling the joke, if it's something your dad said, something your mum said, something a colleague at work said, that can often create the humor for you in the story. So I think that's a good little trick to use. And then you can also look into humorous techniques like misdirection and things like that, having a disconnect between two ideas. Lots of things like that can create humor as well. But characters are the easiest method.
Okay, awesome. And the next question that we have is, one second. Yeah. Okay, I'm losing. How many characters will be the best in a story so that we can involve the audience better?
Well, you see, you've got to be careful as well in terms of the time you have and how many characters you include. Because if you're doing a 7-minute speech and you've got 9 characters, it's just too many for the audience to follow and keep track of. You probably only can have about, I would say, 4 characters in your story, and that might be pushing it. You know, maybe that's 4 including yourself. You don't want to overwhelm the audience. If it's an hour speech, you might have more time to bring in more characters at different points. But for 7 minutes, I would keep it to 4 or less characters.
Thank you, Kyle. So there's another question. What advice would you give someone who really struggles with storytelling?
I would suggest that you use the 4F method. The 4F. That's your firsts, your fears, your failures, and your frustrations. Okay? So write down your biggest fears in life, whatever they may be. It could be heights. It could be the fear of failure. It could be the fear of rejection. Write all of those down, all of those situations that you've experienced, those failures. Those fears, sorry. Then talk about, after that, your firsts. So this is the first time you did something. the first time you drove a car, the first day at work, the first date that you had with your partner. Often these firsts can create quite a lot of funny moments and quite interesting stories. You've got your failures. So what are your biggest failures in life? Often those failures have a lesson attached to them. You learn something from that failure that made you better going forward. Now you've got a story. And then lastly, frustrations. What frustrates you? Is it something that your kids do? Is it something that happens at work? Is it driving the traffic on the road? There's often a lot of relatable material in frustrations. So the 4Fs should definitely help you come up with at least one story.
Wow, that is really cool. So the next question that has come up is, what makes a story truly memorable?
Well, it's definitely the emotional impact. It's the emotional impact, the way that you are able to connect with the audience, because ultimately what we want to happen in our story at some point is we want the audience to stop thinking about us and start thinking about themselves. So if I tell you a story quickly, when I was in school, I really struggled because I'm dyslexic. And for those of you who don't know, dyslexics struggle with reading, writing, and spelling. I guess that's why they made the word dyslexia so easy to spell. I don't know. But what ended up happening in school is I had a really hard time because I'd be working really hard, but my grades would never go up. And all of my fellow students, they were able to get much better grades and with a lot less work. And my teachers actually started holding me back classes. They wanted me to go to lower levels and stuff like this, which was really humiliating at the time. It made me feel incredibly stupid. It made me feel like I was underachieving. Now I'm going to stop the story there, because what I've said all of that, and some of you might be thinking about times in your life where you felt stupid, where you felt like you were underachieving, where perhaps people were getting ahead of you. You see what I've done there? Like, there's lots of things in that little 2 minutes I've said which you could potentially connect to. And that's what we want people to do when we're hearing our stories. We want them to put their story on top of ours in many ways. We want them to see their life through our story. That's how you can have maximum impact.
That's lovely. Thank you, Kyle. We have another question in the chat that I'm going to read for you.
Okay.
If my story is emotional, how can I include humor in it? For example, in my speech, there are 3 characters and all 3 have very emotional stories. And my message is also emotional. So how can I include humor in it?
Okay, you might want to also have a small story about a funny time you experienced with those characters in the story. I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, I did a speech about my grandmother, and it was a very emotional story, I would say. She was a big part of my life and sadly went on to have dementia. And that basically meant that after a while, she didn't recognize me, she didn't recognize my mum, all of these kind of things. It's a very, very emotional, difficult situation. But before I got to that, in the speech, I told a story about how one night my grandmother and I got to watch a movie together without mum knowing. And that movie, which my grandmother decided to let 7-year-old me watch, was Die Hard. You know, so we were able to find some humor in that because that's quite a funny situation. So it might be a good idea for the person who wrote this to start with a funny story about those characters that they've experienced, and then move to the serious stuff later on. Because if you're going to bring the audience down low, you've got to build them up first, so that when they do drop down, it's not so far. Because if you think about it, the audience are like here when you begin your speech or presentation. If you immediately go into like deep, emotional, sad stuff, you might take them too low, and it's going to be hard to ever get them back up. But if you can make them laugh at first, their positive, their energy is going to go up, their emotions are going to feel good, and then you can bring them down, and then you can bring them back up again for the end. So you've got to think about the emotional journey you want to take the audience on. I hope that was...
that sounded really, really profound. So there's another question.
Okay, these are really good questions, by the way. Really good.
Yeah. So how can stories be used not just to engage, but to influence or persuade?
Okay, so if you think about human beings, they tend to be motivated by two things. Gain, if I do this, it will help me achieve X, Y, and Z, or pain. I need to avoid doing this because otherwise I will face these consequences. So you can actually tell stories which highlight the gain, what someone will achieve, or will highlight the pain. Okay? So I'll give you an example. I had a goal not too long ago of running a marathon in under 3 hours. That was my goal. And I had 2 attempts at this, and both of them went terrible. My first attempt, I started seeing double at the halfway point of the race and ended up finishing 1 hour later than I wanted. And in the second attempt, I actually collapsed, I passed out, and then ended up finishing 2 hours later than I wanted. So coming into the third attempt, I felt like I had to do something different. And what I decided to do was actually work with a running coach, a coach called Colin. And Colin, he gave me like a training plan. He told me what to eat. He told me what I should do for a race strategy. He gave me more confidence. And after 3 months of working with him, I did my third attempt and I ended up getting my goal. I got under 3 hours in the marathon. And the message there is if you want to reach your goals faster, work with a coach. And hopefully that motivates people because they see the benefit. Work with a coach, you achieve the goal. And that's what that story's doing there. It's highlighting the gain for the audience.
Wow, that was demonstrated really beautifully. So we have another question. I think the questions are coming even more, and it seems there's a lovely question. What are some of the methods you use to collect and vet story threads?
So the wet story threads, was that the second part of that?
Yeah. Vipin,
Okay.
you want to, if you want some more clarity, you could unmute yourself and you can ask the question, Vipin.
Yeah. Am I audible? I hope
Yeah.
I'm clear.
You're audible.
Hi, Kyle. I just want to ask you, what are the ways that you choose your story threads? By betting, I mean, how do you identify whether a particular story thread is worth, creating or developing into a series? That is what I mean by betting your story thread. So, how do you select story threads? How do you identify them? And how do you decide which one works?
Okay, great question. Thank you, Vipin. I think the first part of that is how do you collect them? You have to be aware of the story opportunities around you, and then you have to write them down. And I like to write them down on my phone. I've got a little story bank. If I see something where it's taught me something, so I've learned something from it, I'll write it down. I'll give you an example. At the weekend, it was our area contest, and they were doing table topics. And one of my club members called Malcolm, he went up on stage, and the content of his topic was really good. Like, it was really smart what he said, but the way he delivered it, he seemed so nervous, he seemed so anxious, he seemed a little bit out of control that he actually made the audience feel nervous. And it was interesting because he had the best content. What he said was so good, but how he said it made people not feel good. And that's something I wrote down because I thought that was quite interesting to write down. So you've got to be aware of these things, Vipin, because often there's lessons in life every day, and we just got to write them down. And then the second part of your question, how do you select what story to build and expand on? Well, again, it kind of goes back to an earlier question. What are you going to be passionate about telling? What do you care about? And then secondly, will the audience care about it? Will the audience care about it? So you've got to look through those lenses when making your decision, my friend. Does that make sense? Virtual thumb is up. That's a good sign.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Kyle, for that.
My pleasure.
Great question, Vipin. We have one more question I have for you is, what are some of the common mistakes speakers make when telling stories that you've seen and how we can avoid them?
Well, one thing for sure is taking too long to get to the conflict, like I spoke about earlier. Also, instead of bringing the audience into the story, they just sort of tell the story. So saying something like, my mother gave me a great piece of advice which involved only doing things in life or following your passion. That's me telling it. My mother gave me a great piece of advice which involved following my passion. What would be really bringing the audience into it would be something more like, I remember when I was with my mum at summer and we were sitting at the kitchen table, we were having a serious chat, and she said something to me which really struck a nerve. She said, Kyle, it is so, so important that you do what you love in life. That has a lot more impact because you can feel like you're at the table with me and my mom and you're hearing the words for the first time yourself. So bringing the audience into the story and not just telling it is a key thing. And then finally, I would say having one clear message. So often the story ends and we don't know what the message is, or there were like 5 messages and that causes confusion. So having a clear message which links up with the story is another thing which people often get wrong.
Wow. So this was just an amazing, engaging session. And I think we've come to the end of our question and answer session. And thank you, Kyle, for that. And thank you for the audience for those very engaging questions and thoughtful responses, because I think with the thought that you've put into your questions, we really were able to get really outstanding content from Kyle. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. But now it's also time for us to, put out our 32 teeth and take a picture. So I request all of you to please come on camera and smile. Show us all your teeth. And let's give Kyle an opportunity to see all those beautiful faces as well. Right. And okay, awesome. And I'm going to, so stay on. Just give me a moment. Okay. And smile, stick on, because I'm going to go through all the screens. That's right. One more. Smile again. Smile, smile, smile. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So let's come to the next and the most important part of the speech. But before that, we have a lot of guests here today, and I'd like to share a little more info about who we are at Champion Evaluators Advanced Club. So for those of you who are coming to, who are
Divya, unmute yourself.
Thank you, Jyotika. I didn't even realize that. Thank you. So for those of you who are coming here for the first time, just give me a little insight about what our club is all about. Champion Evaluator Advanced Club is an advanced club that was chartered in June 2025. The club was chartered for the sole purpose to help members become effective evaluators. So we meet on the second and fourth Monday at 7:30 online to practice evaluation. Our meetings are typically divided into 3 parts, like I mentioned earlier. Speech, so that we have a prepared speech section. And then we have evaluators using the evaluation section to evaluate that speech or speeches. And then we have a group of panelists So there's a panel evaluation of the evaluators. We even have a moderator. So it's very beautifully and very thoughtfully, artfully conducted. So the USP of this club is the unique meeting segments like the panel evaluation. We also have evaluator spotlight, speech evaluation. So we will soon be holding an evaluation workshop for our members where Toastmasters from other clubs will be allowed to attend and learn. Currently, the club is only open for existing Toastmaster members. So you can definitely reach out to our VP membership, Distinguished Toastmaster Lyra Pinto, or our president, Distinguished Toastmaster Jyotika Shetty, to know more. The numbers are posted already in the chat box. Am I right? If it hasn't been, I would request Lyra and Jyotika to kindly post your numbers and make sure that if you want to know more about this club, you should really enjoy the experience of this club. So moving on. Now in Toastmasters, speaking is only half the journey because the other half and the most exciting part is evaluation, because it's through feedback that we refine, we grow, and we elevate. So we now move into our panel evaluation session, where experienced evaluators will share their insights, observations, and recommendations. And to lead this segment, I invite someone who is great with numbers, rhythm, and also speeches. Our panel moderator and also our VP PR, Distinguished Toastmaster Srivatsa GN. Over to you, Srivatsa.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Divya. Good evening, everyone. Can I get some noise? Because you all heard a great story, great speech, and you all were motivated. Let me hear some noise from you. Please unmute yourselves and shout out, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. I'm very much curious to know what happens in the panel discussion today with our eminent panelists who are present with us. I'm very much eager to understand what were their understanding and what insights they provide today. So without any further ado, let's welcome the panelists today, Distinguished Toastmasters Jyotika Shetty, Malini Heba, and Toastmaster Neil Gonsalves. Can we have a huge round of applause for them? Yes. The first question to all of you, please mention each point from your end. Yes.
But is it possible to spotlight Kyle also? Do you want only us to be there as speaker? Is it all right to have him on spotlight?
Kyle, we will be recording this particular session. I hope it's okay with you.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Okay. So I request panelists to answer one particular point for the question, each of you, so that we can get insights from all three of you in a crisp and clear without any repetitions. So the first question is, what would be the commendation that you would love to give to the speaker? Any one of.
All right. Kyle, I appreciate the fact that even for a 7-minute speech, you took actually something that is historically important, persecution of witches, the myth that surrounded some women in the past as witches. And you took that pertinent subject because in certain parts of the globe, we have this kind of witch hunt even now. So that would be my biggest commendation of your speech, because I felt that it was profound in its subject matter itself. Although we don't tell you that you shouldn't have taken this or you should have taken it, but when you take some subject matter which is historically important and relevant even now, that strikes a chord in the heart.
Yes. Next panelist.
Well, I'll take the second one, Jyotika. Kyle, congratulations for such a profound speech that was so beautifully enacted here. While DTM Malini ma'am mentioned that the subject itself was profound, I believe you balanced it very well in the way you demonstrated it and you made it enjoyable. While witch hunt is a very serious subject, but at the same time, you brought in humor, and the humor was very, very beautifully placed at three or four instances. And what really stood out for me in this whole speech was the way you used your eyes, the way you expressed, and every single experience took me back to the time when I went into that particular haunted house. That experience actually came back to me. So well done on that.
Yeah. How about you, Neil? Yeah.
Yes, Srivas. I'm still in that hangover. And Kyle, I was with you in that house. I'm still recollecting how it was. Well, when kudos to you to have gone ahead and found the truth behind it. I think people like me would have just lived in that fear for the rest of our lives. So, number one, I really love the way in which you used what you just said, the three C's that you said, you put it to practice, and we could really see the way in which you created that conflict, those characterization, and the conclusion. I hats off to you. Now, if you're asking for recommendation, Srivastava, I think we
No,
started to
I'll come back to the recommendation bit
Okay,
later.
okay,
I
sure.
have few more
Great.
questions so that we can go
Wonderful. So
ahead
I'll
with
take a
that.
pause. Yes,
Yeah,
go ahead.
sure. So let me summarize the three commendations which we have received. One was subject matter which was taken by Kyle, and the expressions, and then the three C's which was implemented was the overall summary for this particular question. And
But if I could just add on to what
sure,
Neil said, that
yeah,
Kyle stood for what he preached a little while ago, he practiced it. And I could see the green flag going up exactly where he
yeah.
said we should actually give the resolution for the conflict. So, to that extent, it was a demonstration of what he asked us to do a little while ago.
Yeah. Attention to time is what I would like to take it up over here. Next question is, you all can share, any one of you can go first and provide your inputs. The next question is, what was the highlight of the speech today? According to you, what was the highlight?
Can I go first?
Yeah, please go ahead,
All
please
right.
go ahead.
I think it's a very difficult question to ask, which is that one highlight, because there were many highlights for me. The storyline itself was quite outstanding, but the highlight for me is the way in which he catapulted the entire experience. Especially, I mean, look at the way in which this actress jumped out from the wind, that cupboard, and the way he screamed. Unbelievable, because I felt it. I was really, really with you in the entire experience. So I think the highlight for me is the experience you gave me in the entire narration. That was the highlight for me.
Okay.
For me, the highlight was the speech value itself when he asked us to stand for the truth. And he used what we call pun in the English language. It was not Miss Annie, but he said misinformation. So he punned upon the title and the word misinformation. So giving the value of the speech in an original manner is very difficult because you can give a message at the end. That's probably quite easy to do. But to do it effectively, using the language as your tool is not easy. And he achieved that.
Okay.
I'd like to add on to what Malini ma'am said. The two eyes of a speech, the intent and the impact. I think the impact is what is resounding in our ears right now. And Kyle, you did it fantastically. The intention was to create this awareness of misinformation. But I think today, each one of us who are present in this call, we are all going to be beware. We are all being beware of that misinformation. And thank you, Kyle, for that wonderful message.
Yeah. Thank you, panelists, for this particular question. Let me summarize. It was the experience, a stand for the truth, and the intent and impact. I would like to take it. And next question, let me have it divided amongst you three. So I'll pose this question to Neil. Neil, how did you feel the structure of the speech was?
Amazing. I think there's no words better to describe that. The way the title aroused that the intuition, the way he crafted the story that evoked interest. I think anyone, even if there was somebody who was multitasking while Kyle was demonstrating his speech, they would have stopped doing that because it was so very interesting that we kept listening to it. And even the creaking sound, well, I can't explain what I was going through and the way in which the person came out of the wardrobe. Well, it was too good, Kyle. I mean, I take a lot of learnings from this speech. Well, I'm actually struggling to give you some recommendations, but I'll take a pause. Back to you, Srivastava.
Yeah, thank you, Neil. Malini ma'am, a question to you is that how did you feel the speech effectiveness? How can you bring out that? I mean, how well the speech was effective, to be
Okay,
honest.
I think from his session itself, we got the idea that audience engagement should be there through the conflict that gets introduced. And the conflict was introduced not in the first minute, but in the title itself. Beware of her. And not only in the words, but also in the facial expression and the tonal variety that he had, even when he came up with his own title. So effectiveness at every point was 100% there. And probably it would be too simplistic to talk about vocal variety and body language and all that, because it was an expert speaking. So it was not an amateur speaking there. It was an expert who was presenting the speech to us. So vocal variety and body language are two things that we would expect Kyle to have, and he had it in abundance. There is no second thought about it.
Okay, thank you. Jyotika, the question to you is, how did you feel the delivery of the speech?
Well, I think I've been bragging about delivery so far. I've been telling about the delivery. So for me, delivery was 10 on 10, to be very honest. But I'd like to go back to what, am I allowed to go to this topic which you gave to Malini ma'am?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
All right. Um, First of all, did we see the timing for the speech? Did we monitor the time?
Yeah, time was taken.
What was the
Darren,
time?
The speaker took 7 minutes, 5 seconds.
7 minutes, 5 seconds. All right. And so, as far as the structure of the speech is concerned, I think the structure was very well done. I have nothing to say. I think we feel like amateurs giving you this advice, but again, we are evaluators, so we're not going to say that. So I'd like to say a few things as far as the structure is concerned. That is something that I'd like to speak about here. While you had all the elements you said, you had the mentor, you had the villain, you had the comic, all of that was there. I still felt, Kyle, that when you came to the message, the effectiveness was not 10 on 10. I still felt this. Am I allowed to say this? Okay. I still felt, the reason being not because of the message. The message was effective, but the time you gave for the message. Because if it was 7 minutes, 5 seconds, your entire speech, whereas you spent a lot of time putting us through the experience. So when you've already elevated it to that extent, where you brought in that the villain, the tension, the conflict, and all of that, I needed time to actually absorb the message and come down to the original level, or the base. So this is just what I feel, all right? I mean, you don't have to. This is what I feel, that I wanted some more time at that stage of the message. I just felt it was too short. I'll give you an example. You mentioned that we believe in stories. Okay, you mentioned that there is a lot of untrue stories that is shared. Her reputation was shattered because of how we send things around. Now, I'm sure this must have come from some experience you've had, apart from the story. There could be a real story that's happening. For example, social media is something that is rampant these days. Whether it's the war, whether it is someone's reputation, we just don't think twice. We just forward it to every single person. So probably one relevance other than Annie, right? Her name was Annie Palmer. Something to the relevant, something for a reference to today's situation probably would have struck a chord for me, rather than leaving it to Annie Palmer. Because Annie Palmer is, again, a chapter from the history. So this is what I feel. So I felt that you could have given me a little more time during the message stage. All right? And there's one thing, you also spoke about your fiance, Emma, right? But she was nowhere in the speech. In fact, she was a character who was supposed to be there, but she was not there. It was all about Annie. It's great. I mean, I'm not trying to butcher your speech, but I'm just telling you what I feel. I just felt Emma could have been given her stand somewhere. maybe a dialogue, maybe a conversation with her probably would have. And I don't know how it really would help the speech, but I felt Emma deserved to be more than just a name in the speech. So this is what I felt. So I guess, I don't know whether, I mean, this is what I felt. I really
No,
wanted
great
something.
suggestions. Thank you so much for those. I really do appreciate that. And you're not the first person to say the first point there about more time for the message. So that's something I will definitely consider for sure. Thank you.
Right. Okay.
Srivatsa,
Yeah, I'll come. Thank you,
were we
Jyotika.
supposed to give a recommendation as well? I didn't.
Yeah, I'm coming for that. I'm coming for that.
No, I'm
As
asking you whether we were to give a
yes,
recommendation or not.
those questions are coming up now. So thank you, Jyotika, for starting up with the recommendation part. So now I'll directly jump to distinguished Toastmaster Malini Hebbar. What is that X factor you felt that was missing in the speech today?
No, I won't say X factor missing, but I just wanted, now when I use the word historical, I didn't mean to say that Annie Palmer herself should be a historical figure. I used the word historical to say that the concept of witch hunting is historical. Now, there I felt I didn't get the link as to by how many years or decades or centuries did Annie Palmer's story go back, because that I felt was important for the audience to know. Because if you are asking for the truth and the truth to be believed in and to be continued with, and for us not to fall victims to the myths that were created about Annie Palmer, we must know as to how old the story itself is, and whether it is in the psyche of all the people there, where it almost becomes, a kind of legend, a myth that people believe in, or is it something that happened recently where it is easy for people to get over that, for easy for people to pursue truth? That is one thing that I felt that could be some hint as to how old the myth itself is. That is one thing. One more is I'm really confused about the interspersing of mystery and humor. Because when you do that, mystery and humor in this manner, you are almost setting the audience to think that it is not the truth. You're going to debunk it at the end and say that it is not the truth. So we are prepared for that, that it is not the truth and it is the myth because of the interspersing of humor. But I enjoyed it. So ultimately, I think I must say that the grimness was balanced with these interspersing of humorous elements. When you asked, would the third husband even think of sleeping in peace? That kind of, you had interjections coming in between. So I think it is good ultimately, although I had that question cropping up once. Then, as Jyotika said, I felt you missed out on the scope for humor when you introduced your fiancé. In the sense, you suddenly jumped after saying, after saying that beware of her. Even before we came to Annie Palmer, we came to Emma. So it was as though we were being asked to beware of your fiancée herself. So maybe you could say, no, I'm not asking you to be beware of Emma. But then there is Annie. Because frankly speaking, for a few seconds, I thought you were kind of pulling a fast one on Emma herself. So that's where I felt you could have brought in some element of humor, I felt.
Okay. Neil, the stage is yours for the recommendations part.
Srivastava, is it for me?
Yeah. It's for you.
Okay. So I'd like to take cues from both Jyotika and Malini ma'am here. One thing, Kyle, we just loved listening to you. We continued to listen to you, and I personally felt that you shouldn't have stopped because we were intrigued into your speech. We just loved listening to it. It went on and on and on. In fact, I even forgot that it was a 7 minute speech. It was like a horror movie, and the way in which you took us on a trail, that was great. But now, having said this, now this is an IAC speech that you're preparing on. So here comes the element which Jyotika was mentioning. Like you need to bring in those things earlier and then finish ahead of time so that you be safer. Something I felt was the message part of it, the way you dragged it a bit. I felt that was a little too much, or perhaps you need to have another incident where you corrected a misinformation, and that would have been great, like what she said. Now, coming to the other thing about the humor and the horror working together, well, that's a very finite line because when you bring in humor in horror, then the horror dies out. So you can never watch a horror movie with humor in it. The entertaining part is different, but to bring in humor, well, that's a subtle change that you had. But having said that, I felt like the initial portion when you started off, that was a good portion to bring in humor. Similarly, when you concluded the speech, there also you could have built in humor. Like you could have brought in something which was relevant for all of us, and you could have just sprinkled a little bit of humor there. So we all laugh it. We always say that we need to finish it on a high. So here, there was an incomplete feeling in me that the story just finished off very fast. The message part also, I felt I need to listen to more, but then nothing more was provided, so I had to be content with what was given. And then the humor part. Well, I love listening to those little sprinkles of humor. In the end, I was waiting for something. I was a little disappointed there. But that was only for us to improve upon because this is a speech that has already gone to the next level. And if there is a cloud or a moon that you're aiming at, this is what perhaps I would have done if I were in your place. But having said that, Kyle, this is a fantastic speech. The storytelling, what you preached, you just practiced it for all of us. And I'm sure all of us here, we've taken these learnings and we are going to come out with better stories, hopefully. And I'm going to try horror next time for sure. Back to you, Srivastava.
Thank you, Neil. Jyotika, do you have any other point to add on? We can't hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, now it's
Yeah.
fine.
I
Yeah.
think I've said enough, Kyle, and these are recommendations that I truly felt, and that's more than enough, is what I feel.
Malini ma'am,
I mean, this is something that probably could also be because Malini ma'am has also added that your title is Beware of Her, right? Nowhere in the speech you've even mentioned it. If you think that could be mentioned in one of the places, probably it will build relevance for the title. Otherwise, you could ignore it. Feel free to ignore it. But I think Beware of Her was a message which was told in the beginning, but nowhere in the speech it has come. But it was an experience. I know it was an expression, it was an experience that we had to feel. But I leave it to you whether you want to repeat this in a speech somewhere.
Malini ma'am, you have any other point to mention?
No, I don't have any other point to mention except to tell Kyle that all that we say can be taken with a pinch of salt. Do whatever you are most comfortable doing, okay? Because there is one accident and 10 people viewing that accident, and 10 people will come with 10 different versions of the accident. A speech is like that. Three of us are sitting here, and three of us are giving our own versions of your speech. Ultimately, now, if we were to ask each of the audience also to speak, they will come up with their own version because we almost take it as, an intellectual exercise for ourselves also. We try to see what is it that we would like to take from the speech or say about the speech. Ultimately, it is your comfort level. Whatever you feel most comfortable doing, you must do, because if you change it because of a suggestion which doesn't make you feel comfortable, you will be actually spoiling your own speech. So take only what you would feel at ease implementing. And even if you have the slightest doubt that, no, my earlier attempt was better than what I am attempting now, forget it. Because we don't want you to say at the end of the speech that I listened to them, and I did this, I shouldn't have done that. That feeling shouldn't be there with any speaker. Ultimately, any feedback, any mentoring should stop there, where we give you a few suggestions, but the choice is yours.
I think with that disclaimer, I think we should also hear from Kyle. Kyle, if you could say about how you feel about it after hearing to all this.
I'm just very grateful. I've got 8 points written down here for me to think about and to work on, and I'm just very, very grateful for your fantastic suggestions. Some things I hadn't thought of before, and this is why I do this. Come to different clubs, get different perspectives. So I feel very, very enriched by your comments tonight. So thanks so much, panelists. You've been phenomenal.
Thank
Hey,
you.
just one question, because you said you have already gone to different clubs to take the perspectives of different. Have you already changed your speech from what it was originally?
Of course, yes. This is draft 13, I think. So there has been lots and lots of changes in the speech. And that's what if you're going to compete, that's what you have to do.
No,
You've
I've
got to
heard
evolve your speech, you know? It's very, very important.
I've heard many speakers say that they go to different clubs and take the feedback and perspective and implement the same in their speech. I just wanted to know whether you had already done that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's something everyone should have a go at doing, because the beautiful thing about Toastmasters is it's one big family around the globe and you can zoom into anywhere. So don't just feel like you have to always just be in your club. It's great to get different perspectives on your speaking as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Kyle. And I just have one last question. Uh, the call to action, what Kyle provided today, how did you feel? Do you feel any change was needed over there, or was it fine? Neil raised his hands. Please go ahead, Neil.
So again, I'm coming back to this topic of this is an international speech that he's working on. Now, I've heard this from one of the champions who said that you get 7 minutes to change the world. So an ISC speech goes to that level where you get 7 minutes where the whole world listens to you. So 7 minutes to change the world. And here is a topic, a very relevant topic on fake information, misinformation. He started it, the chain. I think it's a chain reaction, and this is the biggest thing that I take as a learning. He's done it, and we are all called to do it. Beware of her misinformation.
Okay. Any thoughts from other panelists?
No, I second Neil what he's saying. I think it's a powerful message. Only saying if you can work a little bit on balancing both the first and the second part, I think it'll really do well.
How about you, Malinima?
No. I mean, I think we have said enough.
Fine. Thank you so much. I see red card from the timer that we are the duration for the panel is being done. Thank you so much, panelists, and thank you, Kyle, for being there with us today. Hope these suggestions will somewhere help you to change it or make it something big. And we wish you all the very best to see you in the greater heights in WCPS. We'd like to see you over there. And thank you so much, panelists, for sharing your insights over here today. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful session, and thank you so much for this particular opportunity for me being the panel moderator for this session. With this, I would like to conclude the panel discussion. Now the stage is all yours, Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster Divya.
Thank you, Srivatsaji, and what a brilliant panel it was, and so much of learning for all of us who was hearing as well. So as we come to the close of today's meeting, and we have so much to reflect on, I'd like to share a personal anecdote of mine, which I'm sure nobody in the team actually really knows about. As I was preparing for my area contest recently, one of the persons I sourced out to learn from was Kyle Murtagh. And that is one of the reasons why I could pronounce your name so well. And this is for you to know. And I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to witness magic firsthand and have the opportunity to even speak with a champion like this. So really, truly is a blessing for me today. And it's all about, ladies and gentlemen, how, as I close this meeting now, how we have the opportunity now to connect words, connect stories, how we turn all of these experiences, stories and stories really into impact. Just like how Neil said, you have 7 minutes to impact the world, right? Because at the end of the day, people may forget what you said, but they will always remember how your story made them feel. So on behalf of the Champion Evaluators Advanced Toastmasters Club, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our guest speaker, Kyle Murtagh, to all our role players, evaluators, each one of you for making this meeting meaningful, and a special thanks to the XCon team for giving me the opportunity to connect with my virtual mentor, and I had the opportunity to even speak with him. I now like to hand over the stage back to our president.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Divya. Let's give Divya a huge round of applause for seamlessly conducting the session, and we truly enjoyed her engagement. Divya, like they say, if you really want something badly, the universe conspires to get it for you, and that's exactly what happened. Thank you very much. Now, I have a burning question for all the men in the room. I have a burning question for the men in the room. Who would like to be the fourth husband of Annie Palmer? Any men here? So Praveen has switched off his video perpetually. He's
There
not
are
gonna-
eligible bachelors here.
Most eligible bachelor, Daryl.
So Darren, would you like to be
Daryl
Annie
is
Palmer's
smiling.
fourth husband? Would you
Even
like to be Annie Palmer's fourth husband,
even
Darren?
Annie Palmer won't have the heart to harm Daryl.
No. Now imagine if my
I
girlfriend's
second
name
you
was
on that,
Annie.
Malini. The sweetest.
So Darren, be careful what you wish for, okay? All right, with that, such a beautiful session, such an effective session. I'd like to express my heartfelt gratitude, not only mine, but from the members of Champion Evaluators to our keynote speaker today, Kyle Murtagh. What an effective session. Thank you for that keynote that you gave, the session. The world-class speech that you gave us and the evaluation that we could give you. I hope that's really going to be of use to you, and we really look forward for your future visits to our club whenever you come up with another speech. I mean, if you become a world champion, that's a different question, but even then, don't forget us. But Kyle, please accept a small token of appreciation from our club. This is a small certificate. This is a certificate for you for visiting us, enlightening us, and also enriching the session today. So thank you very much. I will be sending a PDF copy on WhatsApp or email to you. This is a small token of gratitude and appreciation for your presence in our meeting today. We wish you all the best, and I'm very sure you'll go a very long way in this journey of International Speech Contest and being an effective speaker. With that, thank you very much to all the members and the guests here today. We have some time left, and I would like to ask our guest, maybe three of our guests, to tell us how did you feel? What was your experience today? We'll probably go with DT and Samina Naik. If you can tell in 30 seconds, how was your experience today in this club and today's session?
Yeah, actually, I mean, I liked most of it, but I definitely have, I believe that the title or whatever it is has to be repeated at least 3 times during the speech, because then only, and especially in the last paragraph, because it leaves the audience, I mean, it allows it to remember what the topic was about. And we may not remember the other words and all that, but that particular title, no, I believe that is very important. And it has to be a very short title, some just 3 words or 4 words. And that really hits the audience.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, DT and Samina. Thank you very much. Anyone else would like to give us a feedback on how did you like today's session? Vizal, Sanshia, Malvika, Praveen.
Yeah,
Praveen,
I
over
felt
to you.
thank you very much. First time I came to know about this club yesterday, DTM Savita told me to join and she sent me the link. Coming to this club is a game changer. The way normal structures, features, evaluation, and table topic here, you shred everything and make us to learn more, because every evaluation session is a new speech, almost impromptu. And today, as a first coming to learn from the champion speaker Kyle, and the way it was threaded, and again he too takes the notes of 13 times, 14 times. It's a learning for us. I requested one of my colleagues too, who was a member, General Manager MRPL, Muralidharan, he too joined here. Good to,
Okay.
yeah.
All
Uh,
right.
yeah, very interested
Thank
in
you, Praveen. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, a warm welcome to Mr. Muralidharan. I hope you enjoyed the session. We'd like to hear from you. How did you enjoy? I don't know. Is he a Toastmaster, Praveen? He's not a Toastmaster.
He's Toastmaster in Winners Club as well as a Toastmaster in Surat Club actually. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. I don't know if he's still there. Would you like to speak, Toastmaster Muralidharan?
He's there. He has to unmute.
All right. Anyone else would like to go? Tarash, Sunita? Why is everyone closing their speech? When, Kyle said that we do things for two reasons. One is for pain and the other one is for gain. Now it's gain time.
Sanchia.
Sanshia Nazrat?
Nazareth. Yeah.
All right. Kyle, they're all very shy for whatever reasons. I don't know. Being Toastmasters, they're very shy. All right. Sanshia, would you like to go? Speak?
Yeah, sorry, my video is, I think, just troubling, so I'll just speak. Thank you so much, Divya, for inviting me over here. It was very intimidating to listen to Kyle because hopefully I'll be joining Toastmasters soon. But what a beautiful story! And I run a book club, and I would definitely love to read a book based on this if this was the story. And also, oh my God, evaluation by Malini ma'am. I went back to Agnes in college and listening to her. So it was amazing to listen to her and to see some familiar faces. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Anyone else? We have another minute to go. We can then close
We
the
have
session.
Jan Norona, our Toastmaster.
Yeah. Anyone else would like to go?
We have Anbumani was raised his hand.
Anbu Mani, please go ahead.
Anbumani.
Yeah, I would like to thank Jyotika Shetty for this invitation. I learned a lot because I just failed in my area contest speech yesterday, and Kyle gave me a lot more answers for my questions. And I especially like the way he used the sound effects in his speech about unlocking the door and screaming like a lady. It was wonderful. Thank you so much, Jyoti. I'm
You're
going
welcome.
away with a lot of takeaways.
I'm glad it was helpful, Anbu Mani, and I wish you all the best for your future speeches.
Thank you.
All right, it's now 9
Can I
o'clock.
say a word? Sorry, I was in a call.
Yes, Jan, please go
So
ahead.
I think we really need to appreciate the evaluators because we all went into the story, and I don't think if I was the evaluator, I wouldn't have evaluated in my toss because you all really took it so seriously and actually found, you took the thing to actually logically think of what evaluation to give back, and it was so concrete. I think the evaluators really need to be given a round of applause because with such an effective speech, it is so difficult to, see where he could improve. And I know y'all are all experts now, but I think y'all really need to give a big hand to them. And Kyle, thank you so much. I think CEAT has had some of the best sessions. I was there for an evaluator session, and there was so much I learned from it, and I wanted to be there at the session. I took the call, came home commuting, sat at home. I didn't miss a minute of it. So I'm so happy for these sessions, and they are so impactful. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you very much. That's a specialty of our club, Champion Evaluators. We try to do everything at par with excellence.
But
And
I
think
think
this is,
we must have special words of thanks for Kyle because not every day do we get the chance to listen to a speech of this caliber and challenge ourselves to evaluate a speech of this kind. I
Yes.
think all three of us would have been, yes, in the sense we would have sat there and wondered for a long time as to what to say by way of recommendation. Commendation is easy with such speeches, recommendation is a challenge, and we challenged ourselves. And thank you for that, Kyle. It was a great experience for all of us as evaluators.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Totally second and third her because I think today my evaluation observation skills kind of catapulted. I'm sure it's with Neil also. We had an enjoyable, I mean, I really enjoyed the experience. So thank you for giving us this experience. With that, it is time to wrap up the session. Again, I'd like to invite everyone back to our sessions. We have every single meeting is interesting because we focus on evaluation and we try to make it as interesting as possible. We ourselves have different segments that we deliver, whether it's a spotlight challenge, whether it is the workshop that we're planning, or even the speech evaluation or speech analysis. With that, it's good night from Siet or everyone from Champion Evaluators. Thank you very much and have a good night or good evening, Kyle, for you. Good night. And with
Good night,
that, I
everyone.
pause the session.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.